And the key thing on that is that cooperatives are taxed through a tax pass-through system. And that means that the cooperatives, the money has to be taxed once, but if the cooperatives allocate their profits totally to the members, the co-op pays no taxes, but the members pay the taxes on what they earn. And the law says that at least 20% of the pass-through has to be in cash. As much as 80% can be a promise to pay at a future date. And so that's a good opportunity for cooperatives to use tax interest-free money. The individual has to indicate the total amount, and he gets at least 20% in cash, but the cooperative has the use of the rest of that money for expansion or whatever their needs are. At the U.S. tax code, we have several different elements, and it runs the alphabet A through U. And the ones that we're most familiar with are C, S, and T. C Corps are the large corporations in this country, the General Motors, the General Electrics, in which they're double taxed. The industry pays tax, and then they pay tax on the money that's distributed as dividends to their stockholders. S corporations were set up for farmers, primarily for farmers in 1958, and that was primarily set up for farmers, although we have a lot of other business entities using the S corporation. And in that one, again, we have the pass-through where the income is taxed only once if it's passed through the S corporation to the member owners. And that's the one that really focuses on the cooperatives. And in that subchapter T, then we're concerned with that taxation for cooperatives, particularly with the pass-through and the margins of the dividend, not the dividends, but the margins that the farmers receive from the co-op. The profit that the co-op earns, and I would say that one thing about an LLC and a cooperative, they're organized to make a profit. And so they make a profit, then taxes are due. But we can minimize the taxes that the co-op pays by allocating it directly to the membership. Now the membership will pay the taxes on that, and the membership has to understand that's part of being the member of the cooperative and being obligated to it. But we can minimize that if the co-op allocates its earnings to the to the membership, because we only have single taxation. If the cooperative elects to keep some of those earnings and not delegate them to the membership, then the co-op has to pay taxes on it, and that makes their tax bill higher. The regulations for a 521 cooperative are pretty restrictive. In a 521 cooperative, for example, all the members must be agricultural producers. And so if you're not an agricultural producer, if you have those kind of memberships, you're not a 521. The advantage of a 521 is that, one advantage is that you can deduct dividends in addition to the owner's equity that is dispersed. And in a subchapter T, you have to pay taxes on dividends, but not in a 521. So if a cooperative has a lot of stockholders and they're paying a lot of money to stockholders, then a 521 may have some interest in it. So that's one of the key elements. The other thing that's important about the 521 cooperative that separates it is that you must treat all patrons alike. So members and non-members are treated similarly. And so if you're paying dividends to members, you also have to pay to non-members. So if you're doing a lot of non-member business, there's not a lot of incentive to have that formed as a 521 cooperative. And as I say, as time has gone on, because of the regulations, we have relatively few cooperatives that meet a 521. The other part of a 521 is that if you're a 521 cooperative, you've got to deal with other cooperatives who are 521s, and that restricts your business environment. And set prices and regulations and not be subject to antitrust. And that's a big deal. If you have a group of folks from individual proprietorships, they can't talk about pricing and structure, and cooperatives can. And I've gone to conferences where we've been cautioned not to talk about business elements that pertain to a particular business. So cooperatives have the antitrust dimension, and that dovetails along with the subchapter T in terms of the advantage of the co-op.